So the US Supreme Court recently struck down Donald Trump's sweeping emergency tariffs. It sort of looked like things could be moving in a good direction. But what does all this tariff talk and the ruling really mean for affordability for Canadians?
I would not call this a win for the Canadian economy. I would call it a setback for the US administration.
All is part of a trend line, which is trending against the president in terms of the imposition of tariffs.
Frank McKenna, former Canadian ambassador to the US, is also referring to the recent US House of Representatives vote against tariffs on Canada. But does that make a difference?
Does it have a material impact in CUSMA review or where the administration goes next as far as tariffs go? No, it doesn't.
And that executive vice president at the Canadian Chamber of Commerce says it doesn't mean tariffs aren't affecting Canadians right now. Here's our pie to break it down. 90% of trade between Canada and the US falls under the Canada-United States-Mexico Agreement, known as CUSMA, meaning no tariffs on goods that fall under that agreement. The other 10% is considered non-compliant, meaning the products do not qualify for duty-free trade. And we'll zoom in on that slice. That's where we have 10% blanket tariffs.
Today I will sign an order to impose a 10% global tariff under Section 122.
Days after the Supreme Court ruling, Trump threatened to raise that to 15%. Plus, there are specific industries targeted with higher tariffs known as sectoral tariffs. Those break down into these chunks. Steel, aluminum, and copper remain the highest at 50%. Now, the experts I spoke to say that when you average those tariffs out, the 10% tariff applied to non-compliant CUSMA products, along with the other sectoral tariffs, we get a roughly 5 to 6% tariff rate.
That's really the lowest in the world. So it's only in a couple of areas that we get caught, and we get caught hard.
But just because the sectoral tariffs are a small piece of that pie doesn't mean we don't feel the effects. This economist says no matter the numbers, we are feeling it.
The numbers mean nothing. What he wants to do is hurt us. We are under economic attack in a way that we have never been with anybody in the world.
Him being US President Donald Trump.
Where it hits Canadians is through the producers, through the price of input goods to make the things we need to make.
Now, Holmes uses an interesting example to help us understand this. Let's take this can of beer. It's made in Canada out of Canadian-grown barley, brewed here. Even the aluminum for the can is Canadian. But the actual can isn't made in Canada. It's made in the US, so the aluminum is shipped down.
It pays a tariff as soon as it enters, and then it's turned into a can and we have to buy it back. But now that can's more expensive than it used to be, and that's a big part of the cost. End result, the Canadian consumer is suddenly paying a little bit more maybe for that can of beer.
Confused yet? Yeah, there's the uncertainty of it all.
If we look back at 2025, there were over 50 different changes to the US tariff code last year alone. That's more than one a week. It's hard for me to even keep up with it, and it's most of my job right now.
And even without a direct tariff on a product, that uncertainty hits our economy the hardest. Companies are more hesitant to make long-term business decisions like hiring or product launches, which can lead to job redundancies.
You thought last summer was bad on youth unemployment? Wait till we get till this summer, where you're going to see fewer hirings and possibly more firings because of this prolonged period of uncertainty.
And remember that new 15% tariff I mentioned earlier? That's just an example of how Trump may find new ways to apply tariffs.
They're only good for 150 days, and they can only go up to 15%.
And then under Section 122, it has to get congressional approval to be extended.
We have to think about the end game here. The president is going to be able to restack his tariff wall.
And while Trump continues to impose punishing tariffs targeting key industrial sectors, CUSMA is up for renegotiation. The timing means Trump could use this to his advantage. What we know so far is CUSMA requires parties to meet every 6 years to review the agreement and decide whether to extend it. So far, both Canada and Mexico have said they want CUSMA to remain in place. But just recently, the US trade representative didn't sound like he was pleased with it.
If we want to have that deal, you need to have better rules, stricter rules to make sure that there's more US content in what we have.
So uncertainty continues. But despite that, according to Holmes, relief and reduction of sectoral tariffs, so steel, auto parts, lumber, could come. And that's because of pressure from US consumers.
The cost of durable goods that American consumers are paying for, and the tariffs aren't making it better. And there's data that shows the tariffs are actually contributing to it. And so that over time could weaken where the administration's willing to go or how deep they go on tariffs. Do I think that's going to happen? Not right now.